Rob, let's just chat a bit further about the new entrants, the Sunwolves, the Jaguars and the Kings. You were saying earlier the Sunwolves making a fairly decent start, the Jaguars of course recording their first win, but the Kings, considering all these sort of troubles they had leading into Super Rugby, the pre-season, non-payment of salaries, and I mean it's always they always say it's a hotbed of talent, but it's a hotbed of politics.
It is, and you could sense that. You could sense the unease. There was nothing like the passion. Remember when they first joined the competition in 2013? Even then, they looked like a little bit of a fairly sort of hodgepodge, cosmopolitan sort of bunch of players. Not all of them sort of Eastern Cape based, which of course is the ideal. You want the local public to be able to sort of, relate to players from a particular region, and that's not really happening to any major extent. Just because there's still, I'm afraid, a chronic lack of real top-notch quality. And by that I mean genuine Super Rugby caliber players in Port Elizabeth. There are a few, and there are still a couple of hangovers from guys who played in that 2013 side. People like Shane Gates, Vleis Engelbrecht, all sort of useful, proven enough players, because that first season was so decent. Let's not forget that Alan Solomons was the coach in 2013. Really excellent coach who is very good at getting the best out of a fairly moderate bunch of players. Now you've got, with respect to Dion Davids, a very sort of rookie coach at Super Rugby level.
He was at Boerland, and then
he's been around the circuit. It's sort of generally in the Cape, done a bit of sort of toing and froing, but he's raw to Super Rugby. I think he realizes, and you got it sort of even in his halftime interview, you sort of got the feeling that they know that they're up against it. They're not going to make any sort of fancy statements about knocking over this team or knocking over that team, because as Garen said, looking at their roster, it's very hard to sort of work out where they're going to winkle a single victory from. They're going to have to play out of their skin somewhere along the line for that to happen. But the big
is it right, sorry Rob, to launch them into Super Rugby when they clearly are still not ready for it?
Yeah, well, no is the straight answer. We know why they're there. We know that there's been a lot of massive pressure in the corridors of sort of political power in South Africa. There is this great belief that there is a need to be a Super Rugby franchise based in Port Elizabeth and to sort of tap into the talent there. But as I say, talent is a word that you can't just sort of just pluck talent from trees. And at this stage, I don't know how much it's going to suit the development of some of their young players if they're getting a massive club week after week.
Do more harm than good.
Absolutely. It could actually set them back. What they really needed was to have a couple of really sort of consolidating years at Currie Cup level, I think, where they haven't even yet proved themselves to be competitive either. So there were always going to be danger signs moving into Super Rugby. And I'm afraid on Saturday we saw 6 tries to 1. They were resilient for the first half an hour, as you might expect from them playing their first home game, very determined in a derby, but eventually they ran out of ideas, they ran out of steam, and the Sharks were just way too good.